So the government has added Adelaide to the list. You must be pleased about that.
Well, that's a small compensation for what's taken place here, Peter. This is too little, too late. The government's known for 6 months that the tourism industry is facing an economic cliff at the end of March, and the package that they've delivered is just unsuitable for the issues that are facing the tourism industry right at the moment. They've been very selective in focusing on airlines. What they should have done is focus on the tourism industry and come up with a package to ensure that the tourism industry is still there when this terrible pandemic ends.
The message the government got, though, from the tourism sector was, and businesses that the Treasurer went to, was we need tourists. So doesn't that prove that this has merit, that it is a good idea, because it will put tourists in those places that overwhelmingly relied on JobKeeper, and they will hence spend money?
Peter, we definitely need tourists, but in 2 weeks' time, those tourists aren't going to make up for all of the international tourists that used to come into this country. For instance, Melbourne and Sydney are not part of this package, and they were the places where most international visitors came to Australia. It's not possible for this package to be implemented during the next 2 weeks in time to replace JobKeeper. What this government needed to do was say, look, OK, let's do something along the lines that they've proposed, but in the meantime, until we know that things are returning to normal, we're going to keep supporting the industry, supporting workers, supporting small businesses, and ensure that we continue to provide JobKeeper for those industries that have been so badly affected by this pandemic. The federal government has a special responsibility in this area, Peter. The decisions to close the Australian borders were decisions made by the Australian government. They weren't made by state governments. So there's a special responsibility here, and I think Scott Morrison has let the Australian people down, and he's most particularly let the tourism industry down.
Well, so many businesses have been able to come back online, though. So on that sense, Australia is doing very well compared to other nations around the world. And for those businesses that aren't quite there yet, you've got these interest-free periods of up to 24 months for small to medium businesses. So isn't that some positivity in all of this, would you agree?
Look, I'm afraid it's not, Peter. You're right, some industries have come back, but for those industries that haven't come back, they needed ongoing support, and this package isn't going to do it for them. The Prime Minister says it's a ticket to recovery. For a lot of these businesses, it's simply going to be a road to nowhere. What the government had to do, if it was going to introduce a package like this, was to ensure that it kept JobKeeper going for all of those small businesses, for all of those workers that work in this industry. You don't need to now spend money in those industries that have recovered, but you do need to protect those industries that are still struggling. And tourism, travel agents, they're one of those groups. And we've got to protect those people so that at the end of the pandemic, we've got a viable tourism industry. And this package doesn't do it.